Well, first off, I'm just so excited. I got a chance to watch the screener yesterday evening. I really enjoyed it. And I promise I didn't let anybody else watch. My wife was pestering me. I snuck into a spare bedroom and locked the door, and nobody else saw it, just me. So it is, your secrets are safe with me. But Jane, I wanted to ask you. I mean, you produced a story about Comanches, and you yourself are Comanche. And what was that like, working on a project and producing something about your own people and your own culture?
It was a dream come true because, usually when you're a native producer, people reach out to you and they're like, they have a period project and it's about a different tribe or a different whatever. And you're just like, oh, okay, here I go again. Right. But in order for me to do this, and it was Predator, because I'm a big fan of action adventure. I grew up on the Predator, and it was just so important for me. And for me to be able to infuse like the correct culture of my people, because when we as Native people, and when you watch shows that have Native content, very, like hardly anything is right? Like nothing's correct. You have people speaking different things or wearing different outfits or whatever. So being a traditional artist as well, and being able to create these items, it was real important for me to make sure that I just kind of, put my little touch everywhere that I could, all the way down to language, so when you watch this, you can actually pick Comanche and watch the full movie in Comanche. And for my people, that's amazing. We've never had that on a brand new movie.
Yeah, I saw that feature. It is really exciting. Now, was that challenging, producing the film in both English and the Comanche language?
Well, eventually, in the beginning, Dan, because he's so brilliant, wanted to do the whole film in Comanche from the beginning. So when we were doing our final auditions with Tabe and Naru, we even had them audition in Comanche. So, we always kind of had that, in our space. We weren't able to do it in Comanche, and so actually the language was put in at post. And what was really most important for me is I didn't want to see something look like a Godzilla movie, right? The people are running and they're speaking English, but you can tell they're not really speaking English, right? So that was interesting because we incorporated, one of our language speakers, Guy Narcomi, who's brilliant, and Kate Briner, who's brilliant, that works with our Comanche language program. But we even had to kind of alter our language a little bit to kind of like think back, for period, but also to make everything fit. Because, for me, that was really an important thing. Like I said, no Godzilla movie here.
And Dan, I want to ask you, you've got an impressive Hollywood resume. What drew you to Prey, a film about an indigenous population 300 years ago with this sci-fi twist?
Well, it was a confluence of things, really. I mean, the first impulse was really wanting to make an action movie in which the story was told primarily through action with as few words as possible. But not wanting it to just be a surface level, visceral experience, also wanting it to be an emotional one. So I sought to infuse the engine of a sports movie, of an underdog story. And in thinking about doing that, I thought it would be great if the story that the character is going on is linked to the story that the audience is going on, and thinking about, well, who is not often seen in these kinds of movies? Who, shifting the lens from who's usually the hero and putting it on the person who's usually playing the sidekick or the villain. And so in that's what was the first impulse of like, oh my God, maybe it's about a Native American culture. And then it led me to Comanche, who of all the tribes were a little bit more gendered, and which led me to Jhane. And the one thing I will call out too is, I haven't really mentioned this yet, but there's a very specific shot that is in the beginning of the movie that is trying to interact with the way that Native Americans have been portrayed, specifically Comanches have been portrayed in media, which is when she first steps out of her teepee. There's a shot that pushes past the framing of the opening with her standing outside. and it's a direct callback to The Searchers, which is a massively influential movie on cinema. It inspired Star Wars. It's a John Wayne movie. It's classic, and it's got a pretty rotten portrayal of Comanche in it. And there's a very specific shot in the movie that is John Wayne walking towards the door as we push past the door frame, and it's been cited in lots of movies visually since then. And I wanted to make sure that our movie had a reflection of that shot.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how many viewers pick up on that reference, because that's going back a few years, but definitely a really cool add-on there. And Jhane, I want to talk more about, the history that's revealed there in the film. And is it an accurate portrayal of Comanche culture during that time period 300 years ago?
I believe so, because we were able to work with historians. We were able to work with, Comanche elders. We have Comanches infused all throughout the film. Even Edmund Tate Navacoya recorded, he did research on old Comanche songs. He did a camp crier thing for us. So, and even to the very end, did you see the credits where we had the end credit roll where you have the hide art? So that would be the kind of art they would be making at that time, because as a fine artist, I've studied rock art. My daughter is a ledger artist, Wakia Jane. And so at that period, they would actually be doing hide art. So we got some of the country's top fine artists to recreate those. And two of them were Comanche, Nakona Burgess and J. Nicole Hatfield Curtis. So yeah, I think it's accurate.
Yeah. And do the Comanche have legends and stories about aliens and terrestrial beings? Because I know some tribes do. Many tribes do.
Absolutely. And so it's kind of crazy because our alien or our big monster, right, is the 7-foot tall monster with little eyes and that comes out at night. I mean, it's like when you describe it, it is the predator. And so our word for it is Pia Mupits. And we did a pre-screening, while we were still in post, just to kind of show it to some people at the Comanche Nation to, get some feedback. And one of the things is one of my childhood friends called me afterwards and he's like, oh my God, I was just blown away to sit there and hear her say, when she's describing it and she's saying Pia Mupits. And he said, we never hear that. We never hear our accurate language or something that's from our culture in a film. So for me, that just, really makes it because, rarely as a creative, do you get to come in and be able to infuse, so much correct representation into every part of the film.
Jhane and Dan, thank you both so much and looking forward to the release.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.